It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show! Hey everybody, it's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey gang.
And Les Webster.
Hi all.
How's everybody doing?
Cool.
Doing well, thanks. And you?
Doing okay. Hope everybody out there...
All these tough questions at the beginning, jeez.
Yeah, wow.
We gotta hit toss the fastballs here.
Obviously. I hope everybody out there is doing all right. What's been going on with you guys?
Well, I am back working on my mountain of trades. And the one I've got cracked open at the moment is the October Faction Volume 1, which is, I actually talked about this one a couple of times before, but you know what? It's awesome, so I'm going to talk about it again. Short synopsis, it's the story of a family of monster hunters. The son and daughter have recently come of age and have decided, okay, we want to join the family business, as it were, and hilarity ensues. It's kind of a horror, modern fantasy hybrid thing, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of character in these characters, as one would not be surprised from Steve Niles.
Who's doing the art for that? And I know that's for IDW, but I'm drawing a blank right now.
Damian Worm?
Okay. Alrighty.
I'm assuming that's how he pronounces it anyway. If not, sorry. Feel free to come on the show and correct us anytime.
There you go. Cool. Les, what's been going on with you?
I found a 3-issue series put out in 1970 under DC's Showcase banner, and it is Manhunter 2070. It's about a guy who is hired to locate and kill, essentially, pirates and such in space. It's by Mike Sekowsky, who was noted for his run in Justice League. He was the penciler for many years of Justice League. And this was just kind of a nice little different thing. Like I said, I was lucky enough to find this at one of the shows recently, so I'm taking that in and smelling the aged paper right there. Woo-hoo. It's pretty good.
I remember hearing something about that within the last year or so. I don't know why that has popped up, but I remember hearing something about Manhunter 2070. So that's kind of cool. Well, I finally went to see Suicide Squad, and of course Les was there with me. He had already seen it a week before. And I thought it was pretty good. I'm not sure exactly why it's getting all the bad vibes that's been thrown its way. I think part of it's just kind of the just way the Warner Brother DC films have been up to that point. It's not a great film. It's a popcorn film.
As it should
last
be.
night. Yeah. I mean, people talk about the story being kind of hacked up and all that. And I'm like, no, it's kind of a simple, straightforward story. It's kind of funny because we saw it at the Alamo Drafthouse. Shout out to Alamo. Before the movie started, if any of y'all have been to the Alamo, you already know this. There's like a 20-minute or 30-minute, just a little pre-show of just different videos and stuff that somehow has some tie to the movie you're about to see. And at one point, they showed it was a different kind of a trailer, but it was for the Dirty Dozen. And that's essentially what a Suicide Squad is. It's the Dirty Dozen, except for they have different kind of abilities. Les and I were talking about this earlier today. I thought the cast was really great. Viola Davis was awesome as Waller. She was not who I would have chose, but after seeing her, I was like, she was perfect. I can't see anybody else doing it now.
See, that's the great thing about being a good actor, is you can step into a role that might not be cut out for you specifically and still pull it off. So
Well,
that they went out
yeah.
and got a good actor to do the job, that says something. It says good things,
Well,
honestly.
exactly. When the writer who created the character goes up to you and says, "You were awesome. You were my Amanda," and John Ostrander has said this. He's posted on Facebook. He's also done a review on, I think it's comicsmix.com, and we can get the link for that if you want to read his review, because it's an interesting getting his take, since he is the one who created the supervillain version of Suicide Squad back in the 80s. So he's the one that kind of started this. That says a lot. That says a lot that he gave her just two big thumbs up, saying you were awesome. So
I think so. I think that means something.
yep.
I have to agree with you on the cast because they hit on target with Katana, with Flag. Deadshot was really good.
Will Smith was really good. It's
See,
kind of a
and I've heard mixed things about him too. I've heard people say he did good. I've heard people say he didn't. So
well,
interesting.
it's a different take, because I mean, for these type of movies, he's usually a lot more animated and a lot more humorous, and he's neither one in this.
The way I've
He is
heard it described is that he plays Will Smith in every movie he's in. It's the same character all the time. So the idea that this is a slightly different one is cool. I think that's a positive.
well, I could say that for a lot of actors, though. So
Right,
you
right,
know,
sure.
but yeah, it was kind of different seeing him in, because it wasn't all that long ago that he was the king of summer movies. There was always a Will Smith movie, and he was always starring in it, and he was always the ones with the funniest lines and being a hero. And yeah, he has a couple of humorous lines in this, but he is essentially playing second fiddle, and I thought he did well. Margot was awesome as Harley, although as I pointed out to Les, there was two or three times I thought it was kind of jarring how they would cut back to her for a reaction scene when it really didn't need that particular sequence, other than to say, "Oh, she's here. Don't forget that she's standing there with the rest of the group."
She's technically the hot hand out of that group.
Well, yeah, she's the popular character, and I get that, and I told that to Les too, but it just
Forced.
kind of felt, yes, exactly. And I was telling Les, and we don't want to spend the entire time talking about the movie, but Jared Leto. I don't know what y'all have heard, what you've heard, Mikey, but it wasn't really anything different that we hadn't. He was just there. I mean, the only thing that was kind of different from any of the other performances is basically the look.
Mainly, all I've heard is that he really wasn't in the movie that much. So
He wasn't in the movie that much. And in fairness, and I've said this less because they've said that there was a lot of his scenes that have been cut out. If they're added back when the Blu-ray comes out, maybe things will be a little different. But it didn't. Because let's look at the live action Jokers up to this point, up to him taking the role. We had Cesar Romero, a clown. We
a
had Jack
clown in a
Nicholson.
clown show. Let's be realistic. I
True,
mean,
true.
Batman
A clown.
'66 was a comedy. It was so
Yes.
he needed to be a clown.
Yeah,
Not that
he
I'm
was.
defending Cesar Romero. He doesn't need me to defend him, but
No. He was a good actor. Y'all hadn't seen some of his other movies that are not comedic. He was a pretty good actor.
He
Nicholson,
was in The Thin Man.
yeah, he was. Nicholson, I mean, some people say he basically played himself, and
back
yeah,
to that.
back to that. And yeah, I mean, he was insane. Heath, wow, Heath was insane, but with an edge in a darkness that we didn't see before, and just with Leto, and I'm not blaming on him. Like I said, it could be just some of the footage that just didn't make it into the film. It could be the writing or something. It wasn't really Joker. It was just someone else. You know, it could have been someone else.
Well, and based on what I've been hearing about not only what's on screen, but also the stuff that went on behind the cameras,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
almost seems like he was just trying to out crazy Heath Ledger. And I mean, for my money, that misses the point.
yeah,
I mean, he was just doing weird shit on set and weird shit off set, completely unrelated to the movie, and uh, it's as if he was trying to create his own stamp and didn't bother to do it like in the movie or something. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen the flick. I don't. All I know is what I hear on the internet,
yeah,
basically, and we all know how far we can trust that. But it just seemed like he was trying too hard to be crazy.
yeah. So, Les, what's your thoughts?
I, as you know, thoroughly enjoyed the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Jared Leto had a part in the movie that really did not push the plot forward. He was a piece of tinsel on the Christmas tree. He was somebody that would be there for a few minutes. At times, he was the plot points that he was in were significant, but it's not like he could have carried the movie by himself. There was no way that he could have, unlike Ledger. To me, Ledger could have carried that Batman movie without a problem. His opening scene at the bank was tremendous. Jared Leto, on the other hand, was in the first part of the movie. He showed up in the middle part, and he showed up at the end. So it's not like it was a Joker sandwich of a movie. It was just that he was there to disrupt a few things here and there, especially disrupt Harley Quinn. What I did really like about the movie was the intro music they had for each character. I thought they did well to find particular songs that would help describe the character themselves.
The soundtrack is really, really good. It's a mix of classic rock with hip hop and all that, and then the score itself was really good too. So yeah, I enjoyed that. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. I just was going to say that to me, this is a movie worth going to see,
Yeah.
Especially in the theater, so you get that full effect.
Kind of the last of the summer movies for this year, perhaps.
Yeah, it's real close to it. Although this weekend, Kubo is coming out. Kubo and the Two Strings.
Well, I'm thinking of summer movies in terms of the action blockbuster thing.
Oh, action blockbusters?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe you're right, Mike.
Yeah, cool. You didn't see the air quotes on summer movies.
I see. Okay, pardon me.
There you go. I did point out one thing to Les, and when we saw the movie, we saw it with our friend Tom Branch, and I said something to him, something that part of it's a problem I've been having a lot over the more recent years, and it's not just in comic book movies, it's in action movies or sci-fi movies or whatever, kind of in a lot of the adventure movies in general. There was a time where the hero it saves the day, and just now it seems like they're showing up just 5 seconds too late. The villain gets their day, and whatever they're trying to do, it's accomplished for just a moment. And then here's our hero or heroes, or in this case, anti-heroes, having to deal with the repercussions of what the plan was, and then somehow try to fix it and still take out the villain. And it seems like it's getting old. It's done all the time now.
Well,
The hero.
If you want to get technical, the hero saving the day had been going on for 80 years before that in movies. So you could argue that had gotten old too.
Well, that's true, but it change up every once in a while is fine. But it just seems like it just doesn't happen now. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm off my soapbox.
Oh, prematurely, because we still got a whole show to do here. Come on.
Woo! Well, I'm just about the movie and some of my complaints about today's movies. So let's go ahead and get into this week's topic. I think in one of our prior episodes, it may not have been one that we've actually released, so forgive me if I don't remember right now. We had discussed getting new readers to comics. And this week I kind of want to focus a little bit more on the younger age, starting them young, trying to get them in where a lifetime of reading comics, a lifetime enjoyment of reading comics. Because I started out real young reading comics. It was because of my dad and my uncle. Les, you've told me stories about road trips and you be in the back of the station wagon with the 3-packs and pulling them out and just reading all the way.
Started reading them as early as I could in the morning. As soon as there was a little daylight, I'd start reading comics.
And it's just nowadays with so many other things out there getting your attention, what do you think we can do to bring in the younger generation to comics? What's your guys' thoughts?
It's not like there's not material out there for the younger reader. There's plenty out there. And that spans everything from cartoon series to live action movies. I'm not going to push a child toward some of the main titles for the big two, but there are some things out there that should be picked up by the youngers. I'm thinking that, well, obviously the parents can try to open the child up to reading that way. To me, librarians or teachers could also assist in getting children to read comics, because it opens up so much. You have science, you have mathematics in some of the books, and this to me is the essential. Get the kids to start reading, and they'll expand the mind. All of a sudden they'll be thinking outside the box. They'll actually start thinking and enjoy it reading, and definitely enjoy reading that much more.
Okay. Mikey, what's your thoughts?
I have to admit that I'm a little worried about it because, how can I put this? I don't want to come across as disparaging to young people here, because, get off my damn lawn. But because there's a certain irony to three old guys talking about getting kids to read comics, if nothing else. But my concern is that I saw something online, I think it was even earlier today, that said that made a reference to the idea that there are surveys that show that 35% of 2-year-olds have electronic devices of their own. Be that, usually it's some sort of tablet at this point. But the deal is, the reason they have those things is so that they can watch visual media. They can watch what are effectively TV shows, whether they're coming from TV or they're coming from just web series type things, whatever. What concerns me about comics is that comics is pretty much a stationary medium. It's pictures. It's pictures that don't move. And it's pictures that don't necessarily spell out everything that's happening like a TV show would, because you kind of have to with a TV show. Well, whether you have to or not is probably debatable, and honestly, that's really just part of it. The kind of the flip side of that is the way comics are released now is I don't think the serialized format is conducive to drawing in people who are used to watching a TV show and having it have a beginning, a middle, and an end right there, all wrapped up for them in a neat little bow. And I don't know how I don't know how comics can compete with that, really. It doesn't. I'm concerned that they can't, and that as it continues to get easier and easier to get motion-based media material out there and in the hands of these young people, that's where they're going to go, because that's what will attract their attention. Because it's easier to focus on that, because you look at one panel of a comic book page and you kind of have to use your imagination a bit in order for the next panel to make any sense. And you don't have to do that with TV or web stuff, shows, whatever, however you're doing it. And I think that might be bad for comics in the long run. I don't know if any of that makes any sense, really, but
it does, but I believe some of the publishers now have or give you the chance to read the comic on your app of your phone, we'll say. And the thing is, some of that will be semi-motion. They will give you the scene. They will say, give a close-up of somebody, and then all of a sudden a fist comes across and smacks them in the face. So it's a semi-motion. And I can understand your point, Mike, that if you're not going to wean them off the electronic equipment, which, relating it to my life, that's what my parents did by putting me in front of a television. It was a babysitter. Mm-hmm. And if you can read online with a motion portion of the comic that way, maybe it would appeal. Now, if that will get a reader on the app or on a tablet to move over to the printed word, well, that's another thing. I can understand the negative thoughts that could be there. Gee, Mom, where do I plug this piece of paper in? I don't know how to function without a control bar on this.
You mean I have to turn the pages physically? Ew.
Yes. Oh, no. Don't make me do it.
It's torture.
How about you, Thomas?
I'm still trying to process what Mikey's saying.
Sorry.
No, I bet it's a valid point, because I mean we are in the age of handheld devices or laptops or basically That's where a lot of people get their news.
One could say we're in the age of hand-holding devices.
Yeah. Okay. And and that's fine if you want to read comics that way, but it's still I think it's a valid point of TV shows or since we're talking a little bit younger, even animated shows or some of the stuff or even some of the stuff that's on YouTube. Some of that being geared more toward the younger set and or
Right, there's a kids version of YouTube out there,
yeah.
which just has a bunch of kids shows on it. I mean, of varying lengths and of varying age levels. And why would I bother looking at a collection of pictures when this guy's over here telling me about animals and has an animal right there in his lap? I mean, be it educational or not, it's
Yeah.
moving, and therefore it's more interesting. And just looking at a series of pictures and reading some words to go along with it, not as exciting perhaps. Not as eye-catching. Not as easy to focus on.
Okay. So does the comic industry compete with that? We've kind of talked about motion comics already. What other options are there?
I have no idea. I mean, honestly,
Honestly, I don't
unless
either.
you go full blown into animation, which whether that solves the problem or not, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how. My concern there would be is it just where's the cost compared to just doing a live action show? Because
Yeah.
you can do. I mean, obviously, you're going to eventually get away from superhero stuff because you're going to lose your CG budget pretty fast. If you're wanting to keep the cost low, you just move it to something a little more realistic. I mean, my kid still watches Wildcrats, and I mean, he's pretty much aged out of that show, but it's kind of a hybrid. Some of it's live action and some of it's animated, but it's a PBS show if you don't know, and it's animal based. They talk about animals and they're not. It's not entirely realistic, but whatever. But I mean, I can't imagine like reading a Wildcrats book because it's like I said, it's aimed for like a say 4 to 7 age range, and so the dialogue is very simple and it's pretty much constant. Somebody's always talking just about, and there's always some sort of movement going on. People they're running somewhere. They have adventures and they're running around doing stuff and following animals and even pretending to be animals to an extent. And I don't know how words on a page is going to compete with that at that age level. I mean, if you're lucky, maybe you can find a way to pull them back in at like the middle grade level, like the 10 to 13. But I mean, as far as little kids go, I don't think there's any way to compete. I think you're going to at some point see the end of a true children's comic because there's just not going to be any point. The only way people are going to buy those is parents who are going to read them to their kids at night. Which okay, but you've already got an entire industry based on that. So how does comics break into the children's book publishing game? I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it to them. I don't know if they would even know how because they're so focused on an ever aging market at this point. I don't know.
Well, I know that DC has a series of books for young readers, probably 8 to 10-year-olds for a starting point, and they are stories depicting superheroes with everyday problems and how they're overcoming them. It's viable, but I also can see that this could draw someone, a young reader, in for comics. If they decide that, hey, this character is pretty cool. I'm sorry, I'm probably well over the age to use that. But it's something that they decide that maybe this is a doable thing to read. I might be able to get caught into the world of comic books and find that there are so many things out there. There are so many kinds of comics. And to me, if you have to shove it in their hands, do so. It's viable to do that, to present comics. I've done it with a class at one of the local elementary schools. The teacher there had ESL class, and by giving them comics, the kids loved it, the fact that they could learn to read English. From there, I've even talked to the teacher, and she says a lot of those kids have gone on to pick up comic books, and I think they were like second graders when I gave them the books, and she says that now those kids love to read, and they thoroughly enjoy comic books.
Well, you mentioned shoving books into their faces. Well, I mean, isn't that kind of what Pre-Comic Book Day in Hollywood? Hollywood. Oh God, I'm still stuck on the movies. Halloween Comic Fest. I mean that's avenues to do that.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, the kicker with that is that they're not old enough to drive to the comic book store.
Yeah,
so you still have to you still have to do a double-pronged marketing campaign. You still have to sell it to both the kid and the parents.
Yeah.
They've probably got Uber on speed dial.
I want you to call me the first time you see a 7-year-old climb out of an Uber to walk into the comic book store. I want a phone call exactly the moment that happens. All right.
Well, how would I know? How would I know it would be an Uber though? It's not like they actually,
escort them to the door or something, or wearing their Uber hat or whatever. I don't know. I have no idea.
Check for the sticker in the windshield.
Okay.
It's a toughie.
It is.
See, and I almost feel unqualified to even talk about this because my kid, despite all my efforts and despite surrounding him with them, isn't really that into comics. And he's 9. And it's just not, he's just, and I say that, and there are a few books that are suspiciously similar to comics that he does have, that he gets into, but he doesn't view them as comics for whatever reason. And so when I talk about comics to him, he's not interested, even though he's reading these other books that honestly, once again, he latches onto things and he doesn't let them go. So he's got a few books he's got this little device, what's it called? So leapfrog, I think, some sort of leapfrog device, and an electronic thing and it'll basically read the book to him. And so he's got a handful of these, and honestly, for all intents and purposes, they're comics. I mean, he's got a Spider-Man one, he's got a Scooby-Doo one, and he's got a few others that are comics-related books. But when I ask him about comics, he says he doesn't like comics. And I'm like, it's one of those things, he just hasn't kind of made that connection yet. And so I have not successfully marketed comics to this 9-year-old yet in 9 years. Well, okay, in all fairness, in the 5 years he's been reading, I have not successfully managed to sell him on comics as in general. So, like I say, I feel a bit unqualified to talk about this even.
Yet you're more qualified than Thomas and I because we don't have children.
No, but you guys do market comic books. Way more so than I do. You just haven't really aimed for that young group yet because they don't show up at the store very often.
That's a good point.
Again, the Uber thing. But
yeah, because they're more interested in checking out the action figures or the stuff like that. It's not really the books. It's the parents would actually look at the books and yeah, maybe they may eventually get a couple. And I'm talking books, as well as comics.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's not really a easy sell or they're interested in Pokemon cards.
Well, right,
Which,
and it's
of
one of
course,
those
it
things
was.
where you're talking to the parent because, well, for a couple of reasons. Because A, the parent's the one paying attention when you talk, and B, the
Right.
parent's the one with the money.
True.
I mean, and not to put too coarse a point on it, but you're really, I mean, it would be great if you could get the 7-year-old to pick something up, to pick up a comic book and turn to mommy and or daddy and say, "Hey, buy this for me because I want it." But it doesn't always. It's not always that simple,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things you have to be careful because you don't know what level of parent you're dealing with. You don't know if you're dealing with a what we'll call, because I've got D&D on the brain at the moment for some reason, what we'll call a low-level parent who doesn't really have a lot of experience and doesn't necessarily hover over their kid to keep an eye on what they're consuming, versus a higher level, more experienced parent who is maybe could be a little more helicoptery and wants to be more careful about what they're looking at, and so they're kind of controlling where their kid goes rather than letting the kid just run loose like a crazy person. I was going somewhere with this. I really was. Oh yeah, about the marketing. So it's hard to know in your position, at least I assume it is, where to focus, whether you need to focus on the parent or on the kid, and you kind of have to start with the parent just to get a feel
Yeah.
for how much you're going to get away with the kid. Because if you focus on the kid too much, who knows how the parent's going to react, because you don't know what kind of parent they are.
And and Les could probably back me up on this. It seems, for the most part, it seems like it's usually the parents that are kind of showing. In this case, we'll talk comics. Hey, here's this title, or here's this title, and usually it would either be Les or myself or James would kind of back that up and kind of give them a little bit more information, and
Or
then
or steer them towards something else if they
or
have
steer
to.
them or
Yeah,
something else. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
right. Either
Uh,
steer them in that direction or to similar stuff, or to stuff that
yeah.
it might actually be better
Right.
for that age group or whatever. Sure.
Believe me, how many times we've had to point out to parents that, okay, yeah, that's a Deadpool comic. It is a comic, but it is rated T for teen. So I don't know if you want your 8-year-old kid to read it,
Yes, please remember that the movie was rated R, folks.
but and we point that out. So you know what, Junior may not get that Deadpool comic, but there is a reason.
Right. Maybe there's something else that would be a little
Yeah,
more
yeah.
appropriate or appealing or
Let's
whatever.
let's look over here and see what we got here. And how about this? Oh, this is good. This will be funny. Yeah,
Yeah,
check that out.
maybe even a Star Wars book, I mean, something that's also movie related, or something, or maybe something that's a little more comics related, that's a little lighter fare. Right.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about this last night, kind of going over my mind what I want, how this to talk about this topic, and I realized pretty quickly how many titles that are all ages are licensed. They're based off of whether it's a cartoon or, I mean, hell, Grumpy Cat, an internet meme, has a comic book.
Hmm.
I mean, there's not really a lot
Is that an
of
all ages book?
originals. Yes, it is. Yeah, I think so.
I honestly haven't read it. I don't know. That's why I'm asking. I didn't.
Yes, it is.
I'm, I guess
Because
I'm not
Grumpy Cat
surprised.
has a partner that he runs with.
Yeah, the cheery, but not all completely there, if I'm not mistaken, right? That seems like the impression I've been given.
I think so.
So, well, it's funny that you bring up D&D, because recently we've had some parents come in and say they would like to get little Johnny or little Susie. You know, they seem to be interested in wanting to try to do a role-playing game, but Dungeons and Dragons are a little too old, so we've actually been kind of looking into trying to do either junior versions of that or find something that is comparable. So.
There are more kid-appropriate role-playing games out there.
Oh yeah.
For sure. And yeah, it's kind of a matter of deciding which one to push.
But it's just kind of talking about timing, and it's just kind of the same thing.
And if you do it right, you can gear it toward, or you can use some of the D&D stuff as a backdrop, so that it still has the same flavor. This is an entire and complete tangent, but yeah, there are ways to make that work.
Well, I started a tangent, so it's okay.
Yeah, we'll blame you. No problem.
Do you perhaps have a session with kids at a store? Just have a sit down and have a reading of a comic, a title or something, and see if they possibly latch onto it. Just make it it would have been great for the summer, just a summer reading session.
Yeah, I was about to say that would be perfect for the summer, but now as school's starting to start up again, I don't know. It would be tough.
Pity we didn't talk about this in May.
Maybe a Saturday session of some sort. Have them come in as a group and just let the parents know or the households know within a certain area that you're going to have this, and have a reading session.
Libraries do this. They don't necessarily do it specifically with comics, but they have kid reading things like that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they emphasize it in the summer a little more, but I'm willing to bet a lot of them do it year-round to some degree. Maybe not every week, but like a monthly thing or something. Seems like a reasonable idea to me.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing is try to get them in to read. Let them understand that there is a lot of fun in reading, and comic books will entice them with it. Although the pictures don't move, they are there for perusal, and a lot of kids latch on for the artwork, just like a lot of adults latch on just to the artwork. Don't give a rat's ass about the story itself.
Which makes it that much funnier that there's so much emphasis on writers in comics, and artists get short shrift all the time. But again, digress just a bit. You're not talking about kids. You're not talking about grown-ups. Kids are different.
True.
Kids are gonna. I would think, maybe I'm wrong. I would think kids would tend more to latch on to the art because it's easier, because it's just there looking at them, as opposed to a story which you have to think about. And then you have to distinguish that this story is different from that story, and that a person wrote that story. And it seems like it would be easier for kids to like the art. I don't know. I'm rambling.
That's true.
Okay.
I have this sneaking suspicion that you've got us doing your homework,
dude. I don't know about. I don't know. I don't think that's the case, but it definitely has. It's interesting idea. Cool. That may be something to try out. It wouldn't hurt. Definitely wouldn't hurt. What else can we do you think, or is it just basically just to be there if they show interest, and then just show them the possibilities? I don't know.
That seems like a kind of a weak business model, is what that seems like.
Well, I'm not.
You want to market it a little more actively than that. I know. I mean, I get it. But yeah.
Well, I'm not talking necessarily as a business. I'm just talking about us as fans and as readers right now. Just try to be more encouraging. I don't know. It just, they say the age range on for readers are is like mid-20s to late 40s, maybe a little bit older. And that just seems like, you know, there's an opportunity. Granted, there's issue of finances for the younger age, but still.
Take it out of their Uber allowance.
Yeah, see, and the thing that worries me a little is that these publishers have marketing departments. If these professional marketing people can't figure out how to appeal to an 11-year-old, then what the hell hope do we have, you know? Other than maybe being a little closer to the reality. Because who knows who's in their marketing department? It could be a bunch of early 20s people straight out of college who haven't even thought about having kids yet and never read a comic book in their life. Sorry.
Hopefully our listeners will pick up the gauntlet, and we'll see how things go. Maybe they'll see that it progresses. Perhaps they'll have ideas as to confront this. And they're probably closer to the public than those people in the publishing world.
Okay. Well, once again, we solved everything, didn't we?
Always do.
I know.
It's our fate.
Woohoo! Any final thoughts before we wrap this up and go on to our weekly picks?
I'm pretty clear.
I'm good.
I think I'm good too. Alrighty, so when we come back, we'll have our weekly picks. And we're back. It's time for weekly picks, and I'm leading off this week.
Woo!
Yay! My first choice is Godzilla Rage Across Time from IDW. And this is going to be a mini-series that places the king of lizard monsters, I guess is what you want to call it. Does he really have an official nickname? Is that it, a king of lizards, or...
Yes, king of lizards.
Okay, all right. Across different time periods, and there'll be different creative teams for each issue. And this issue, the writers are going to be Matt Frank and Jeremy Robinson, and Matt Frank will actually be doing the art as well. And in this issue, Godzilla will be in feudal Japan, which will be kind of interesting to see. I mean, of course, he's always in Japan, but now in feudal times. It could be fun.
Yeah, if you're into that sort of thing.
Mm.
A lot of people are, too.
Yep.
I can see going against shoguns and things like that. That would be different.
Mm-hmm. Les, you're up next.
My first choice is a title, Amazing Forest by IDW. The writers are Ulysses Farinas and Eric Freitas, with art by DeFore. This is another anthology book, which I'm looking forward to because that's a series that I do enjoy. And this will kind of lend itself to a time when stories were short and ugly. So by doing this, they're going to encapsulate several stories, each by the same artist. And my understanding is in the series of books they will be doing, they will have a different artist each time. Like I said, it's an anthology, so that's what's going to draw me to it.
Yeah, you seem to be a sucker for the anthology books.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Just I've noticed that about you. That's cool.
Thanks.
Yep.
Mikey.
Frank.
Yep. Sounds pretty cool to me. I am going to keep this IDW love train rolling.
Woo!
At least for the moment. With my first pick for this week, which is Dungeons and Dragons: Shadows of the Vampire #4. This is a Jim Zub book with art by
Yay.
Nelson Daniel, and I've talked about D&D books before. I've talked about Zub before. I'm a fan. What can I say? On both counts. Maybe that was why I had D&D in my head a little while ago. But so in this book, Minsk and Boo and company are trapped in the lands of Ravenloft. D&D fans will recognize this as the gothic horror kind of variant world. The Dracula analog is Strahd von Zarovich, and they're bound to meet up with him at some point, but I don't know whether it's going to happen in issue 4 or not, so we'll just have to check it out, huh?
Yeah, they've. I know with this latest edition of D&D that they've brought back Ravenloft and all that, and that's cool. I know it was popular, so glad to see it back. And yeah, Jim Zub, man, he's another good one.
Mm-hmm. He's got another book coming out here in a month or two that will be interesting too. But we'll get into that when it gets closer.
Yeah.
Very nice.
My second pick, I am derailing the IDW train and jumping on board with DC with Blue Beetle Rebirth special. Written by Keith Giffen, yay. And art by Scott Collins, yay.
Yay.
What I'm intrigued about, there's two things that has me intrigued about this book and then the upcoming series, is that we are bringing Ted Core back into the DC universe after being missing in New 52 other than the Justice League 3000, or was it 3000 or was it 3001, Wes?
I believe it was 3000.
Okay. He kind of showed up there for a bit. So you have Ted Cord and then Jaime Reyes. I guess it was Cord being a mentor, advisor, and who knows what else to Jaime Reyes. And then the other thing that has me interested is apparently they're going from the Scarab being like an alien artifact, which I don't know when they changed that, going back to more of a mystical artifact, and that's how Dr. Fate will be involved later on in the series. That's how he'll get involved. So, yeah. So, I'm definitely intrigued, and Keith Giffen, he knows how to write Ted Cord. He's a real good writer. He's another one of those great ones. So, should be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Looking forward to that one myself.
Les, what else you got?
My second choice is from Image, Astronauts in Trouble. You've probably heard me talk about this before. It's a series by Larry Young and Charles Adlard. This is a collection of Astronauts in Trouble, numbers 1 through 11. And what it is concerning is it's been 50 years after Armstrong's One Small Step, and we find ourselves with the world's richest man claiming the moon to be his sole possession, or it is his personal property. In it, I thoroughly enjoyed the read, and they talk about absolute power corrupting absolutely. And in this storyline, you have the mob that has the nuclear first strike capability. So I'm thinking, yes, this is one I do recommend. There are series earlier than Image's Astronauts in Trouble, but this has even pushed it a little further. I enjoyed it, and I believe if you purchase this collection, you'll enjoy it too. Mike?
Cool.
Yeah, I got an Image book too, actually. I'm going to go with Pretty Deadly Volume 2. You've almost certainly remember hearing me harp about this book. It is definitely one of my favorites, and it was one of those that surprised me by being one of my favorites because it is totally outside what I usually go for, but it is just really well written, just disgustingly well written. I mean, it's almost painful sometimes. It's so well written, and the art is just fantastic. I mean, it's Kelly Sue DeConnick and Emma Rios, and this is the second trade for the series. And in this story, Sarah, who was kind of a side character in the first series, is 20 or 30 years older, and she's basically on her deathbed. And she makes kind of a deal with the Immortals to give her a little more time so that she can see her kids again. The catch to that is that her youngest son is fighting in World War I Europe, and so it's a little questionable as to whether he's going to make it through. But it's just like the first arc. It's just an amazing story, just a beautiful story from start to finish. I cannot recommend this book enough.
You're here. It's a good choice. All good choices all the way around.
I think so too.
Cool. All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap this show up?
Not me. Thank you.
Thoughts? What are those? No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, first off, we would like to thank our friends Manny the Martyr for the awesome music. Thank you guys. You're awesome. Y'all would go to our website, go to our podcast page. There is a link to their page, and go check out their music.
It's in the show notes.
Really
too.
cool. Yeah, be sure. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Second of all, hashtag Potter and Family. Our friends on Twitter, our fellow podcasters who've been spreading the word of the fellowship. Thank you guys so very, very much. Y'all guys rock too.
Yep, check out their stuff. There are a ton, maybe literally a ton of podcasts of varying topics and from varying places. It's international. There's stuff from everywhere. Go check out what they got. Maybe you'll find something you like.
Yeah, they're everywhere and they talk about everything. So yeah, I'm sure you'll find something that you'll dig.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you guys for the love. And of course, dear listeners, thank you for downloading and listening to our shows. It's much appreciated. As always, we would appreciate any ratings or reviews, whether it's on iTunes or Stitcher. Google Play, did they do reviews on Google Play? I haven't checked that out.
I believe they do something. I haven't looked to see exactly how it works, but however it works, just throw us a thumbs up or some stars or however they want to do it. And if you have a couple of minutes to jot something down to basically tell the next people to read it how much you like the show, that would be great. We would greatly appreciate that.
Awesome. And of course, we always appreciate any kind of feedback, good, bad, questions. Please contact us. Send us your thoughts, and maybe you have some suggestions on how to get the younger generation into reading comics. We would definitely love to hear that.
Yeah, how would you sell a comic book to a kid? Let us know. Give us
feedback. Always being appreciated.
Tell us what you think.
Please do.
You can contact us several ways. There's the Contact Us page on our website, which is www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can send us an email at email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. We are on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. We are also on Twitter, @FellowshipGeeks. Mikey has his own page, @MikeyGeek. And I have my own, @TomTCGeek. Please give us a follow, and we will respond in kind. Anything else? I think that's it.
I think that is it. Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, once again, listeners, We appreciate you checking us out. Hope you had a good time. We always have fun doing these, so hopefully y'all are enjoying it as well. Until next time, read more comics and support your local stores. We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,